Okay, in 5.1 we're going to talk about parallelograms. The three objectives that we'll learn in the next 3 lessons have to do with quadrilaterals, parallel lines, parallelograms, and properties of the three. Here's a picture of my vacation home. Nice example of a parallelogram. The only definition that you'll need to know for this lesson is the definition of a parallelogram, which is a four-sided figure with both pairs of opposite parallel lines. Notice the way the parallel lines are noted in the figure and the notation of both parallel lines here. Parallelogram also is identified by the parallelogram in front of the quadrilateral ABCD. So you can note a parallelogram like that as well. As we know, parallel lines come with certain properties. With those properties, parallelograms have certain theorems that we could apply to that. The three figures you'll see apply parallel lines properties. And in theorem 5.1 we have opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. Opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. And one probably not commonly known is diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. So you have two pairs of bisected lines. And so each diagonal bisects the other, creating the congruent segments. In your worksheet, you'll see at the bottom of the 5.1 worksheet an example that looks very similar to this. These are the questions just as they are listed on your worksheet. Right now, hit pause and answer the following 4 questions, and we'll come back to check the answers. Okay, the answers for these questions are: QR is 5, PX 10, angle QRS measures 125, angle PSR measures 55, and angle 3 is 27 degrees. At this point, if you have any questions, you should note them on your sheet. And in class, we will discuss any questions that you have at the beginning of next class. If you turn your worksheet over, this is example 1 on the front side of the page. You'll see the solution is there. The example is as follows. An algebraic connection having two expressions of 2x plus 5 for HM and 4x minus 19 for MJ. Find the value of x applying one of the theorems or definitions that we just discovered. We know that HM and MJ are both half of the whole diagonal HJ. Therefore, we could use either segment addition along with the property that the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. Therefore, we could set them equal to each other and solve for x, finding x is 12. Just as the example says, again, if you have any questions regarding this concept, we can, again, talk about them in class next time. Letter B, finding the measure of angle 3. We know that the measure of angle 2 is 25 and the measure of angle HIJ is 120. We could use some type of property that we've learned. In this case, we know that 120 plus 25 plus angle 4 equals 180. And you should know that because it's a parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel, creating a transversal where same side interior angles are congruent. So angle 3 equals angle 4, and from there we could solve and find that angle 3 equals 35 degrees. If you turn your paper over, hit pause now and answer questions 5 through 13. 5 through 13 on your worksheet. We will discuss these answers in class. Next is the example for example 2. You'll find that right below question number 13. Parallelogram ABCD is given. Obviously, we can apply some of the properties we know about parallelograms. Just because it's stated, we can pull out some things regarding the drawing. Angle 1 also equals angle 2, and our job is to prove that AX is congruent to YC. I'd like you to take a second and try to fill in some of the reasons in proof number 14, as we'll go over the answers when you finish. Hit pause and do that now. The answer for step number 1 is, of course, the given. Once we know that, we can prove that A and C are congruent because opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. AB and CD are congruent because opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. From there, we can take what we learned in chapters 3 and 4 to prove that two triangles, AXB and CYD, are congruent. And the reason for that is ASA. And from there, we could then prove that the two segments AX and YC are congruent because of course, CPC, TC. At this time, if there are any questions regarding that proof, again, note them on your sheet. We can discuss them in class. And the remainder of your homework is to answer question number 15, the proof, and then again come to class with any questions that you may have.